place he starts Max Clear, it's hard to really think he can add.
Yeah, Max has been doing an awesome job. Obviously, he was off to a really strong start last season before the injury, but he's come back this spring, summer, start to fall camp even stronger. So it was great to have him back out here, and he's looked really good. So we're excited to see what he can do.
Just the overall depth and experience with Bibber, with what George did in the Indiana game, you got to be very happy, down the line, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we feel like we got a lot of guys that can go in there and execute and do what we're asking them to do. Run game, pass game, protection game, everything that we're doing. We got a lot of guys that can execute that, which is fun, and that creates competition out here, and they compete with each other, and then at the end of the day, that should make for a strong room.
Obviously, it wasn't great that Garrett was hurt last year, that Max was hurt last year, but did that build some depth and experience that maybe wouldn't have been there if that didn't happen?
For sure. I mean, if those injuries went to happen, the Drew Bibbers of the world, the George Bergham of the world just wouldn't have got as many reps, and the practice reps that they were getting. So that was all important for their development, and then that gives them a bunch of confidence going into this year. Now that they got those reps, the lights aren't too bright out here in practice. They're ready to go. They're guys who have played in games now. So.
The young guy, number 19, Tavion Galloway, I know he's a true freshman. Talk about his potential, maybe where he could eventually become.
Yeah, so Tavion's super athletic, super long, still figuring out a little bit of all the things that we're asking him to do, but that's normal. Our position, I played the position, so I know what it's like. We have to do a lot of good things really well to play. So you got to be sharp. You got to know exactly what to do in a lot of different phases of the game, and he's getting there. He's learning. But these reps that he's getting out here, we just did a segment, obviously, where those guys got a bunch of work, and that's awesome for him.
You haven't always worked with tight ends here, but you were a tight end at Purdue. You've been around here a while. How's Max compared to some of the tight ends of recent Purdue vintage, like Plain Dillon and Hopkins?
Yeah, he's got all the potential in the world to be one of the best tight ends that's ever been here. So again, that's my job, that's his job to put in the work, which he's an awesome kid, and he does that because he knows that he can be special, and that's the type of player that we expect him to be, and he expects from himself as well.
George kind of like the total package with the speed, with the size, with the pass catching ability, and I mean, we saw what he did in one half basically against Indiana, but that's all we're seeing in the game film.
For sure, and the thing with George, to his credit, is he's put on over 20 pounds since last season. So last year, again, you mentioned the injuries. He maybe wasn't expected to play as much. It was kind of thrust in there from a necessity. So now he's getting a whole off season, and he's up 20 pounds, and now his body is ready to do all the things that he's asked to do. We did a run segment today where he's got to be physical, and you could tell that extra 20 pounds he looked pretty good because of that added weight and strength.
You mentioned all the things that a tight end has to do well. You've got to essentially be an offensive lineman, but also kind of a version of a receiver.
Yes,
also,
sir.
you could probably throw something else in there. So with your background, do you feel like that gives you any credibility with them as far as like helping them with how developmental this process has to be for a tight end?
I think so, because again, at the end of the day, I did, not the same offense, but similar things. And, when you can tell them, hey, I know what you're seeing here or thinking here because I've done it, I think that does create some credibility. And we got another guy that works with our tight ends as well. That's a tight end background, played in the NFL. So we got a lot of guys in our room that are giving these guys a lot of good information to let them go out and execute at a high level.
Who's the other guy that's working with
Keith Tobridge.
Okay.
Yep. And again, with the new rule that everyone can all be in there coaching, that's been awesome. So we're very hands-on with our guys, and we can develop them in Indy and then take it to the team drills. But again, a lot of our coaching points come from stuff that we did ourselves, which I think does help and it does matter.
This is your first year as a tight ends coach, but not your first year with the program. How did that help maybe get you started with what you want to do in this room, just that you already have relationships?
Because I knew these guys. I was here when all of them got recruited, so I knew a little bit about their backgrounds, and then was able to see them from a little bit of a distance, but see, hey, what are their strengths? What are maybe some things we need to work on? And then see the way they compete. So yes, you weren't starting from ground zero because you had a relationship built up with them, working with a different group, but seeing them day in and day out.
What do you see as like how integral the tight end is to this particular offense? You've been through several. You've seen several versions of it.
Well, again, we're going to be as involved as we can be as long as we're producing. So that's any good play caller. That's any good system. The guys that are out there making plays are going to play. So obviously our goal is to go out there and make a bunch of plays. So hopefully we're playing a whole heck of a lot.
Max seemed to be pretty positive about everything in the spring. Just, you know, it was a tough break because, like you said, he was coming on and looked like a breakout player. But how much is that mindset when you do have an injury of like, okay, this happens, but I just have to rehab and get back, play into things?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just grew his hunger, you know, because he was performing at a high level, and then, you know, the injury happens, and now he wants to get back and show everyone, those first 4 games, like, I've got some and then some on top of that. So I think that just created a bigger hunger for him, and obviously that was able to him to take a step back and really fully absorb. Like, he's another coach out on the field. He knows what we're trying to do. Coach Harrell can move him in different spots, and that can really be an asset to our team.
You think we use 2 tight end sets now?
We'll see, as long as we're producing. I hope so. We've been getting a little bit of work out here, so yeah, I hope that can be something that we can do.